Hello and welcome. In this lecture video, I'll be discussing present value and future value of annuities. So what we talked about in the other lecture videos were single amounts. If I put $1,000 into the bank and only $1,000 one time, how much is that worth at the end of 3 years or 4 years at 10%? What if I did a situation though where I put in equal payments, equally spaced out into the bank? So for example, I put $100 a year for 3 years. How much is that worth at the end of 3 years? So what I did is I was making equal installments, the same dollar amount, $100, equally spaced out every year. Or I could do it every 6 months, or I could do it every 2 years, or I could do it every month. Okay? Equal dollar amounts, equally spaced out. Equal cash flows, equally spaced out. That's called an annuity. Okay? So sometimes what we want to do is calculate not just the future value and present value of single dollar amounts, but also calculate the present value and future value of annuity situations. And remember, an annuity, just to make sure you understand, it is equal cash flows equally spaced. So what that means though is that $500 year one, $1,000 year two, and then $500 year three, that's not an annuity because it's not the same cash flow, even though it's equally spaced out every year, but it's not the same cash flow. Similarly, if I have $1,000 in year one, and then I skip year two, and then $1,000 in year three, and then $1,000 in year four, that's also not an annuity because it's not equally spaced out. I skipped a year. So that's also not an annuity. Okay, so it has to be equal cash flows, equally spaced out. Okay, to have an annuity situation. So let's look at this example. It says, assume that you are planning to invest $1,000 at the end of each year. Calculate the future value. So how much will you have at the end of 4 years if you invest $1,000 a year at the end of each year? Now this is important to say, at the end of each year. The tables that we have, and I'll show you in a second, we have future value, annuity, present value of an annuity tables. Just like we had future value single amount, present value single amount. We also have the same tables for annuities. These tables assume that the cash flows occur at the end of the year rather than at the beginning of the year. If they had occurred at the beginning of the year, you would have an extra period of compounding. We're not assuming that. We're saying at the end of each year. Okay? We have our interest rate is assumed to be 8% per year. To solve this problem, we look at the future value, because I'm asking you to calculate the future value of an annuity table, 8%, 4 periods. We find the factor, and then we multiply the factor times the annuity amount. So you can see the future value of an annuity is table B.4, and what we do is we look at 8%, 4 periods, we get the factor, 4.5061. And then what we do is we're going to multiply that factor times our annuity amount to then get our future value. So as I was saying, we take our factor from the future value annuity table, 4 periods, 8%. I just showed you that, 4.506. We then multiply that factor times the annuity amount to then derive the future value of this annuity. Okay? And this would be something that you'd want to know even if you never want to be an accountant. But this is a personal finance issue. Thinking about retirement. Thinking about saving for anyone's college education. You're investing on a monthly basis or you're investing on a yearly basis, and then you want to know what is the value of that annuity in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever you want. Okay? We can also calculate the present value of an annuity. So again, remember, an annuity is equal cash flows equally spaced out. So in this example, what would you need to invest now? And this is keying me into saying, if I gave you this problem on an exam, how would you know that I'm asking you to calculate present value? Because I'm saying, how much would you have to invest now? That's telling you calculate present value. How much would you have to invest right now in order to then withdraw or receive $1,000 each year for the next 4 years, assuming 8%. So the number of periods is 4, interest rate is 8%. In other words, what amount would you have to invest now in order to have $1,000 or withdraw $1,000 at the end of each year for the next 4 years? So what we do in this situation is we look up the present value factor annuity table, 8% 4 periods. Here it is, 8% 4 periods. Table B.3 is our present value of an annuity, is 3.3121. And then I can multiply this 3.3121 times my annuity to then derive my present value. So I just showed you how to get that present value factor, 3.3121. I multiply that times the annuity amount, and then this gives me my present value. So basically what this is telling you is if you put in the bank $3,312 and it's earning 8% per year, and you withdraw $1,000 at the end of each of the next 4 years, you'll have $0 left over. That's what this is telling you. Okay? Let's look at this problem. It says Chad is setting up a retirement fund and wants to deposit $5,000 per year in an investment that pays 7% annual interest. How long will it take him to reach his retirement goal of $69,000? So we use our same formula that we did before. We take our future value divided by the annuity amount, just like what we did before. Remember how we took the future value divided by the present value? In this case, we take the future value divided by the annuity amount, and then that gives us our factor. And then we look up that factor in the future value annuity table, 7%. So when I do the math, I get 13.816, and then you would look up, find this factor in the future value at annuity table in the 7% column. So you look in the 7% column, future value annuity table, find this factor, and then you would look over to the left to find the number of periods, and you would see that it says 10 periods. How do I know if that's 10 months or 10 years? Because it says annual. That equates to 10 years. Okay? So these last two problems on page 8 and page 9, I want you to do these two and then pause the lecture video, work on these two, and then come back and check your work. So with this one, it says an individual is planning to set up an education fund for her children. She plans to invest $10,000 a year at the end of each year, and she wants to withdraw the money at the end of 10 years and expects to earn an annual rate of return of 8%. Will be the total value of the fund at the end of 10 years. Okay, so the first thing you have to do when you solve a problem like this is you have to determine, am I asking for present value or am I asking for future value? And I'm asking for present value because I'm saying what will be the amount in the future. So decision criteria 1, is he asking for present value or future value? I'm asking for future value. The second thing you need to think about is this an annuity or is this a single amount? It's an annuity because it says she's paying $10,000 annually into the fund. So this is an annuity. It's multiple cash flows. It's an annuity. And I'm asking for future value. You have to think about those two decision points before you decide which table to use. So because this is an annuity and I'm asking for future value, use the future value of an annuity table. You look up 10 years, 8%, you find the factor, 14.4866, and then you multiply that factor of 14.4866 times 10,000. That gives you 144,866. That would be the future value of the fund. Okay. On the next one, it says a company borrows money from a bank by promising to make 8 semi-annual payments of $9,000 each. How much can the company borrow if the interest rate is 5% compounded semi-annually? So this is showing the interest rate a little bit differently, because normally I'll say 10%, but I'm saying that's 10% per year. This case, I'm saying it's 10% per year, and I'm giving you the 5% every 6 months. So when we think about these two decision points to help us solve the problem, am I asking for present value or am I asking for future value? Well, how much is the company able to borrow? And the word that's missing here, but is inferred, is now. How much is the company able to borrow now? Because when do they borrow it? Now. So if you think about it that way, I'm asking for present value. How much is the company able to borrow now, which is inferred, if the interest rate is 5% semi-annually? So I'm asking for present value. Second decision point. Is this a single cash flow or multiple cash flows? It's multiple cash flows. Are those the same cash flow, equally spaced out? Yes, they are. It's $9,000 every 6 months. So that means I have an annuity. So I'm asking for the present value of an annuity. So therefore, we use the present value of an annuity table. So I have my present value annuity table factor is 5%, 8 periods. That factor is 6.4632 when you look in the table. You then multiply that factor times the annuity amount, and then that gives us how much they can borrow, 58,168.50. Okay? All right, that concludes this lecture video. Thank you so much.